As my followers know, I have a background in international law that is non-lawyer, and I had a focus on conflict, peace, and security, particularly post-conflict reconciliation and reconstruction. And there's something that I always ask myself in every single conflict, and especially in the Rwandan genocide, which is the reality that the victims, which were the Tutsi Rwandans, as they were being by the Hutu Rwandans, that's 800,000 of them who were unalived in 100 days, I wondered, how did it feel to ask for help to every single being and being abandoned? How does that feel? Now I know. Now I know. This poem comes back to life. First, they came for the migrants, you know? But I did not speak out because technically they committed a crime, right? It's a civil crime, not a criminal crime. However, a crime. So it's okay, send him off to Gitamo Bay, right? We're not gonna do much. We're gonna do some lawsuits, but I mean, by the time we finish those lawsuits, they're already gonna be in Gitamo Bay. What are they gonna do? Send him back? Then they came for transgender Americans, and I did not speak out, right? Because it's only 2 million Americans out of what, 340 million? Who cares, right? Who cares? That's the climate. That's the climate. It's like, hey, tough spot, but I mean, good luck. And what people aren't understanding is look at me. Look at me, you know? I'm already extremely handsome. I'm already extremely confident. I'm already extremely manly. Definitely have more testosterone than the whole Doji clan together. So, in the reality where I ruined my dignity and I got a passport with my original, one, what do you think is gonna happen when I'm traveling? What do you think is gonna happen when I stop at airports and they see that how I look like does not match what that says? Do you think they just go, huh, and let me go? No. You know what you face? Harassment. You face ridicule. All of these things are harmful to your mental health, to your emotional health. I know none of this matters to the MAGA clan. But I'd rather not have a passport at all. I'd rather do the illegal activity of traveling without a passport than give them the pleasure of harming me in that way where they don't have to do the harm themselves. Because what do you think happens when they cut off gender affirming care? What do you think happens? Luckily, I was capable of getting mine before all of this. I was unfortunate because of my ADHD to fix my passport before it. But in that reality, you don't have to harm us, because what else is there when you don't have any validity in your existence? And it's unfortunate because I did my whole research, my whole law dissertation on the shortcomings of traditional law, on addressing the psychosocial consequences of historical trauma and conflict. Meaning that I wrote about how the victimization of other groups in other countries were within a gray zone of the law because traditional law was not well equipped to actually take into account and address the mass scale organization of such a conflict, such as a tyranny, such as a dictatorship, fascism. That's country sponsored violence from the government that trickles down, and how certain groups are in this gray zone. And now I'm in this gray zone. And I'm seeing a repetition of this, and it doesn't matter whether the Democrats have a long term plan, whether they have no plan. The fact that they just think that litigation, like lawsuits, is gonna work, the fact that they think congressional action is going to work, this system already is so deeply compromised that traditional realms will not solve this. And in trying to maintain those traditional routes of legal formalism, of judicial formalism, which basically means you're not moving outside the constrictions of traditional law, so many will be sacrificed because that's what we did in Rwanda. That's what we did in the H cause because we knew what was happening before, but we didn't have evidence. We didn't have evidence until Americans went and actually ran into the camps, right? But also, we had no interest because they weren't Americans. In our reality, in my existence, there's not enough of us to care about, right? Because technically, I mean, at a point, if your identity cannot be proven, then that can be considered a sort of civil offense. I'm not saying it is right now, but it can be within a tyranny. And that's the thing, because just like they made up a title for the Cybertruck body, they can just make up anything. And people keep saying it's illegal, it's unconstitutional, yet he keeps doing it. Why? Because they're waiting on the jure. They're waiting on the appropriate channels to actually contradict that. But as they wait, we get fucked. We get fucked because first they came for us, but it wasn't them. And I don't foresee that Congress has that urgency, or at the bare minimum, they don't have that resolve or the guts to actually do anything as a collective for the Democrats. And I know a lot of people are like, why don't you talk about the Republicans? Trying to criticize the Republicans for something that it's been telling us that they're gonna do and they're gonna support is like me criticizing the Enzis for what they did. We're trying to convince them when they're telling me what they want to do. That's why would I do that? And I think that's a problem because plenty of Americans who have not historically faced any of these persecutions, they don't see any urgency to any of this because they don't see the harm being done to them. I cannot get my passport. Okay, I have my legal change of everything. I just slept on getting my passport because of my ADHD, and now I can't even get it, even though I have the legal change. And that's crazy because you respect the rule of law, except when you don't. And what does that tell us? That without law and order, there is anarchy. So if the one up here isn't respecting the law, then why should the ones down here respect the law? And I think this is why the Democratic Party is maintaining this facade of the constitutional social contract working, because rather than challenging them at maximum, they want to keep some integrity, which is wild because we don't have the Constitution anymore. We don't have our republic anymore. But you keep your integrity, Democratic Party. And I think that's the part that is most heartbreaking, that the party that I've dragged my feet for, even when I've been critical of, I've had a journey with the Democratic Party because at points it's like, can you not have a backbone at any time? And the fact that they just go on and just prove all of that is wild because it's like when we need you the most, you're not there. You just are like, figure it out. And here we are, just because they don't know what to do. They're not serving as a guiding light for us to find a way or even to defend us. Not even just federal, but our states. Technically, Gavin Newsom doesn't have an obedience to this federal government. Per Article 6, Section 3, he has an obedience to the United States Constitution, but he's bending the knee. He wants to become president one day. So, of course, because why would he have to bend the knee when we're the fifth largest economy? Because decorum. But before he even thinks of seceding, because technically we don't require federal Congress to secede. Like when we want to go into maximum constitutional power, the fact that it's void means that we don't require congressional approval, right? Yes, the government isn't going to like it and will act against it. However, technically we don't require it. But here in the United States, if you don't have an international law perspective, which I do, you have an American justice and obedience to superior orders. However, international law, you can refuse that superior orders if that's unlawful. However, what we don't recognize here, especially politicians in the United States, is that superior orders isn't the court, isn't the president. Like at a point it is. However, if that's against the Constitution is always supreme. That is Article 6 supremacy clause. So the fact that my governor would rather bend the knee than actually say, hey, we have the power because we're the fifth largest economy, that tells me a lot. That tells me that if he doesn't care, then the Democratic Party doesn't care, then we exhausted all our channels. And they're just going to allow for whatever happens to happen, as they've done right now. Lawsuits, you'll be fine, you'll be fine in the cams, but we'll do a lawsuit, okay? Then they're going to come for you.